Welcome to the Profits in Pajamas podcast. I'm Danielle D, or Coach Danni D, and I help women to create luxury brands by creating processes and tightening their branding. This is where we talk about how to build your business in a way that allows you to work with ease and enjoy your life. My happy space is spending as much time as humanly possible in my pajamas. And I want to help others to find their happy space while still running profitable businesses. So get comfortable and let's dig in. Well, welcome to the Profits in Pajamas podcast. I am your host, Coach Danni D, always trying to help women, business owners, professionals find their space of balance, find that space where they are living lives that are successful, but that success is tied to their joy and their fulfillment. So, this past week has been very, very eventful. I went to a wonderful women's empowerment conference. I met with friends this week. I attended the second graduation for the Storymaker Academy presented by Monica Pierre and had the honor of being a part of a panel discussion about story, and there just was a lot of story. I'm a big believer that story is a part of all parts of our lives, right? So there was, story, of course, at the Storymaker Academy. At the conference, they had, several keynote speakers. So they did, I think, five keynote speakers, and each one talked about a different topic surrounding women and supporting women. And, each one told a story. And between that and some of the sessions that I attended and just things I've been thinking about, my question to you this week is your story fact or fiction? I'm going to take a different spin on story today. So, of course, the story, as far as the Storymaker Academy and all of that, that's your internal story, right? That's the things that have happened in your life, the things that you may have overcome, the life lessons that you've learned. That story that you share openly, vulnerably is, a connection point to people and a connection point for yourself to certain parts of your journey and um oftentimes reflecting where you're going, right? That's not what I'm talking about today. What I want to talk about is the stories that you tell yourself. So, in several of the sessions that I attended and in my work with my clients, there are always these stories that we're telling ourselves. And personally, myself, right? We all do it. We all have these stories that we tell ourselves, and we tell ourselves these stories because we believe them to be true. But my question is, are they actually? Are they actually true, or are they narratives that you've created? Are they partially true? So are they, um sometimes you have biopics come out and they take creative license, right? Are they partially true? Are you taking something that's like one thing and you're adding more to this story? And I know some people are sitting there thinking, well, I'm not a liar, that's not quite what I'm saying. You probably are not in the sense that you think. You're not intentionally lying to yourself. You believe this story to be true, but is it? Is it actually true? And so taking a moment to take a step back and look at some of the narratives that you are running through your head, and I mean believing with your whole chest, but aren't actually true. I'll, give an example. So I was talking to a friend, and we were in a session together, and so different people are sharing, and we're sitting next to each other, and we were talking. And one of the things that somebody shared was that they felt like the more they accomplished, the more alone they would be. And there were several people who I think were a little further on that journey and who had that narrative that were like, no, you won't be. It feels like it because you may be, your relationships may be changing with some of the people you are currently friends with, but you will grow your relationships with other people. And me and this friend were talking that out, and we ironically had met several years ago, and I was not in a space um that I was open to expanding my like friend circle, team no new friends. That's where I was in that time. And she was like, oh, I know. She was like, I know, but I thought you were very interesting and intriguing, so I still followed you and all of this stuff. And when I sat back and thought about that, I realized that at that time, the narrative that I had told myself, and even past that time, was not true. The narrative that I told myself wasn't true. And often the narrative is built out of fear or self doubt or projection, that because you feel a certain way, you feel like other people may feel a certain way. So, in having that conversation and then reflecting back on how we met in the conversation and the fact that we're friends now and that we have so much in common crossover and everything. But in that moment, the narrative that I was telling myself would not allow me to see that. The narrative that you may be telling yourself may be that, um, oh, while I admire this person over here and they're doing great things, well, they're smarter, or they're more tech savvy, or they're more X, Y, and Z, right? That may be the narrative that you've been telling yourself, that you are not good enough, or that sometimes the narrative is, and I'm not saying that everybody wants to aspire to the same thing, right? But sometimes the narrative is, oh, I'm just, right? I'm just going to X, or I'm just this, right? Putting that limitation. Sometimes that limitation is a narrative that we are saying to ourselves. We have created our own glass ceiling. We have created our own box or walls that we are operating inside of. And we are saying it as if it's fact. So we are taking this fictional narrative that we've created, and we're trying to present it as facts. And, if you are an avid reader, there's the fiction section and the nonfiction section. And um, they do not, they do not mix. Sometimes you have those little crossover books where they kind of start with, a basis of fact and add the fiction that's also fiction. It's not fact. And so I want you to sit back and try to challenge yourself on, what narratives am I telling myself that aren't fact? How am I lying to myself and keeping myself stuck? How am I creating something that doesn't exist. And a great way of like, I don't want to say a great way of distilling some of those narratives is listening to other people around you and truly listening because we tend to be deflective when people compliment us or when people tell us about ourselves and our greatness. But if you think that you are small and when you talk to everyone, they tell you how big you are, how great you are, how wonderful you are, and you're not processing that. You're telling yourself some false narratives. You are telling yourself some false narratives. So let's examine those narratives. Let's look at what are you telling yourself? Why are you telling yourself that? And why are you so committed to it? Because the one thing I know, and I know I may have a tendency to be personally to be stubborn, so maybe it's just me, but I'm pretty sure it's not. The one thing that I know is that people will fight tooth and nail for those narratives. People will fight you like if they got caught plagiarizing to say no, this is fact, and will not release those narratives because those narratives make us feel safe. Those narratives are excuses that we can use to keep ourselves from going to our greatest heights. So we just want to say, yes, it's this, it's this. This is the reason. We don't want to look in the mirror and say, you know what? Maybe I'm not putting my full effort out there, or maybe I'm scared. Maybe I'm really scared and I, I'm scared to try because I'm scared to fail. Maybe that's what's happening. Maybe I'm scared because I'm scared to succeed. That's another option. Sometimes success is so big and so public and and I want to be in the corner and so I'm scared of that. Maybe if I can say it's somebody else's fault, it's not, right? So we have to let that go and we have to find truth find truth and start dismantling these narratives that we are creating because you wrote it so you can unwrite it, right? So let's undo the narrative, and sometimes the narrative is inherited. Sometimes the narrative is what society has said, you know what I'm saying? Society said this about you or your group or your, whatever, right? But again, just because somebody said it doesn't make it true. So let's fact check. We're gonna hear a lot of that coming up in election season and debates and all of that. Let's fact check. Let's fact check these narratives of ours that we're telling ourselves that we are X, Y, and Z. And we have no facts to substantiate that. We are just living this narrative and letting it control us, and we have no facts. So that's what I want you to explore this week. Um, I would be remiss without saying that that is a huge part of what we do in the Capable Confident Challenge. So the next round of that will be in July 1, coming up pretty quickly. Um, that is what we work through. That is what we work through. We work through all of that mindset um mess, that we have in there that's keeping us from going to the next level. I've heard from several people, oh, well, I'm confident. I don't need that. And, and even the most confident people have mindset blocks. And it's actually some of the most confident people that probably benefit the most because you can be confident, you can be, out there bold and doing the things. But what tends to happen is We, even in our boldness, we do the things that make us comfortable. We do the things that are that may be a stretch, but they're not a challenge, right? So we may stretch a little bit, but what we need is a full on challenge. We need to move from where we are to another place, not just reach from the comfort of where we are. And when you try to do those types of things, that is when those mindset blocks come in. That is when that negative self talk, imposter syndrome, all those things come up in that moment that you are trying to elevate. So that's why I think that it's very important to uncover what those things are. So don't wait till you are in the midst of the elevation. Do it right now. Figure it out right now so that when your fear comes and starts telling you those false narratives, you can say, girl, look, fact check. I fact checked this. That's not true. You will be prepared with an arsenal of tools to be able to overcome those things so that you can continue to move forward. And it has been amazing to see that blossoming of, going from yeah, oh, well, kind of, sort of, to being able to say it with your chest, to being able to be confident, not just externally, but internally. Because there's some people who may be confident a certain amount internally, but struggle with saying it out loud because they don't want to seem braggadocious. They don't want to seem, like they are, feeling themselves too much, right? And then you have the flip side of that coin that is, bold and, their mind saying it, but sometimes on the inside, feeling like a fraud, feeling like I'm not certain. I'm not certain that I live up to all that I say that I am. So again, the Capable Confident Challenge, that is where we work through all of this, including and especially these narratives, so that we can get to a place where these narratives no longer control you. And where instead of telling these fables, these tall tales, these nursery rhymes, we are telling our story, our story of truth, our story of triumph, of success. So let's get to a place where instead of false narratives, we can confidently tell our story. All right, y'all. That's what I got for y'all this week. I will put the link to the Capable Confident Challenge in the show notes, as well as a success journal, because that's another way to keep track of our feelings so that we can distill those false narratives. This is the last week of the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society campaign that I've been working on. So I have till Friday at noon to reach that goal. So I'll put the link to that as well if you want to help support that. All right, y'all. Y'all have an amazing week. Thank you for listening to the Profits in Pajamas podcast. I hope you got some great tips to start working with ease. Want to stay connected? Follow me at Your Workflow on Instagram. For more information about building your luxury brand, register for my upcoming luxury brand workshop at CoachDanniD.com.